All right, thanks so much for joining us on this morning. I'm Ibrahim Sheta, standing in for Yori Folari. And today we'll be talking about very interesting development, which is something not just affecting, maybe not Nigeria alone, but will definitely have impact on the ECOWAS community. That's talking about the import levy that has been imposed by the Sahelian countries, the countries that are under military junta, viz. Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, imposing 0.5% import levy on ECOWAS country. We'll be dissecting the impact of this on neighboring countries, especially Nigeria, Ghana, and what have you. So just to give you a background of what has just happened or what has transpired so far, if you look at the Sahelian countries, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso imposing these sanctions. In a joint statement last week, the AES said it aims to generate revenue to fund the alliance's activities. The levy, which took effect last Friday, applies to all goods from ECOWAS member states entering any of these three nations except for humanitarian aid. And people have been asking the question, okay, why are you imposing this tariff or imposing the sanctions and all of that, following the sanctions that ECOWAS, imposed on these countries for sliding into military juntas, which has been controlled by, the military and all of that. So why are you now ensuring or allowing humanitarian aids to flow into the country, but not other goods or other things? But I'll be talking with former Nigerian ambassador to Burundi, Ambassador Elijah Onyeagba. Thank you so much for joining us on this morning. Ambassador, if you can hear me.
Thank you so very much.
Right,
yes,
right.
I can hear you. Thank you very much. Good morning and good morning, Nigerians. It's
Absolutely.
Been here once again.
Right, thank you so much for joining us. So if you look at this, the 0.5% levy being set by Niger, Burkina Faso and Mali, and according to them, they believe that it will raise millions, like $3 to $10 million for these countries and for the new military force that they're bringing on board. How do you think this will further help them in their sovereignty?
Thank you so very much. This issue has been on between the three breakaway states of the ECOWAS in the last 1 year and about 4 months or thereabouts. These countries of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, controlled by junta, decided to break away from ECOWAS first, and eventually they came back to form what they refer to as the Sahel states, AES. And ECOWAS on their own part, led by President Tinubu, has been trying all sorts of measures to try to find a diplomatic solution to the problem. You realize and recall that the president of Ghana was in Nigeria a couple of days ago. And the reason why he was in Nigeria was to be able to brief Mr. President on what has gone on with respect to the engagements that he has been having with the juntas of these states. To our surprise, a couple of days ago, they came up and they said that they are imposing a 0.5% import levy on goods that are coming in from other West African states. Quite understandable. Funding is a major issue for every country. And of course, when you have three countries coming together, their leaders will struggle with funding because if they are now to form a confederation, what that means is that they have to find ways of generating revenue because they will now have joint military. There are quite a couple of things that they will need to do together. So funding will be an issue. Even before they even broke away from the economic community of West African states. There is also something that is called the community levy within ECOWAS that countries are expected to be paying year in, year out. So I think that the challenge that these countries have now is that they are struggling to find a way to generate revenue to be able to run their confederation as well as provide security for their people. But then the challenge again is that some of these decisions, when leaders take them, they are always far-reaching consequences on the citizens of their country, not just on the leaders themselves. You know that ECOWAS have got something that is referred to as the ECOWAS trade liberalization policy, or, that allows free movement of goods and services from one nation state to the other.
African Continental Free Trade Agreement. After. Yes.
Yeah, no, not after. ELTS, the ECOWAS Trade Liberalization Scheme. That is the one that allows, it's not after yet, it's just within ECOWAS, within the sub-region, we've got the ELTS. And that is the reason why you can wake up today and go to Ghana tomorrow and start to work. That's the reason why Ghanaians can move their products and all of this idea is to be able to help trade and, encourage trade within the sub-region, And that from the time that these AES states broke away, ECOWAS doors have always been open for them. There has always been, the dialogue option to try to find a way to resolve the impasse. Because the far-reaching implication is not necessarily on the leaders. It is the fact that a Nigerian that is actually living in Nigeria will now have to go back to Niger to be able to get a new passport and now apply for Nigerian visa to be able to visit Nigeria, and vice versa. And a country like Niger, for example, have got years and years of relations with Nigeria. In fact, across the borders, you will find out that these people actually are they live like brothers and sisters. So what they have done now is that, in my view, it's now punishment to their people, because a Nigerian can just, with the ECOWAS passport, travel to Niger, travel to Burkina Faso and Mali, as the case may be, without any kind of application for visa. But the restrictions that they have placed on themselves at this point in time is such that they will not have to go back to their country. They will have to apply for the passport for the Sahel states, and they will not have to apply for visa to be able to visit any of the ECOWAS countries. Now, what is the implication of having 5% imports levy on goods and services? The implication is that, yes, the leadership of the Confederation is likely to have some revenues from there, but who is going to really pay for that? It is the citizens of the country. Right. We are likely to have inflationary pressures on the citizens of on the goods and services, because if I have to import something into the country from West African state and I pay a levy on it, it still means that whatever I pay, the cost must be transferred to the eventual beneficiary, or the buyers that will be able to come and be able to buy, some of the things that we've imported into the country. It's like when you impose a levy here, locally here, that you want to charge extra for the things that goods and services that are coming from outside the country. The people that will bear the brunt is largely the citizens of the country, because whoever that is importing will pay, and then they will have to transfer the cost, which actually will lead to inflationary pressure. These three countries, for example, when you look at their economic indices, three of them put together have got about $46 billion in GDP. So it's not really a big country compared that to Nigeria, for example, that has got over $370 billion GDP. So it's not like economically that they are very viable. Yes, combined population of about 68 million or thereabouts.
That's right.
Yes, sounds good in terms of market, but still, it will end up punishing the citizens of the country. And I believe very strongly that the window that has been created by ECOWAS to try and find a way of resolving this impasse, it's going to be expiring, I think, sometime in July. Yeah. Because the protocol is such that if you give a notice of pullout, it takes about 1 year before it comes into effect. And then 1 year has come, ordinarily it should have come into effect, but ECOWAS also gave additional 6 months. So that 6 months is ending sometime in July this year. So we are hoping and praying that, there will be a lot of reconsideration. I mean, Nigerian government reached out to Nigeria a couple of weeks ago requesting for assistance in provision of fuel. So countries that are struggling to pay salaries, countries that are struggling and they need also assistance for things like fueling from Nigeria, you can understand when you now begin to now say, okay, before you now move any goods from say Maiduguri to Maradi or thereabout in Niger, you will now pay additional levy, which will eventually be transferred to the citizens. So I think this decision, while it makes sense on the part of the Confederation to raise revenue, there are concerns. There are diplomatic concerns. There are trade concerns. There are social concerns on the people, of the country in question.
Absolutely, and some of these concerns will try to, demystify them, break them down. But if you look at US, they are not alone. For instance, when Trump came in, he was saying that he was going to impose tariff on Canada and some other countries, including what the face-off he had with Mexico as vis-a-vis sending non-nationals of US out of the country, those who are illegal migrants. Does it look like Niger, the AES countries, are borrowing a leaf from what Donald Trump is doing, if you look at it on a broad level, geopolitical-wise?
Well, it would be very interesting if that is what they're trying to do. These countries, in terms of development, influence and capacity, cannot be compared to the United States of America. Trump, like we know him, even if in his first tenure, have got this protectionism perspective or policy drive of trying to ensure that the people of America, gains more from a lot of things that is happening, around them, their neighbors, and, quite a lot of trade and deals that they get involved in. But what economic powers, actually, what kind of influence does the AES states have in terms of trying to compare what Trump is trying to do in the United States? And you can also see that even while Trump is also trying to double down on some of these policies, in some cases he has gone back on his words. In some cases he will get back to the negotiations table to continue to talk to see how, he's going to get a best deal or the better deal for their country. What is the per capita income in the United States? What is the per capita income in each of these three countries? Averagely, maybe about $700, per capita. But the truth of the matter is that if that is what they are trying to do, then that would be very unfortunate, because for leaders, you must always have the perspective of looking at the larger picture. For whatever economic policy, for whatever drive you want to have, you must look at the short term and also look at the long term. I hear them saying clearly that, they want funding to be able to fund the Confederation, which is okay. But the truth of the matter is that there could also be other means for you to generate revenue, because if the idea for your generating funding is for the citizens of your country to now pay more, then to what extent have you been able to, deal with these issues? Remember, there are establishments of ECOWAS that are alive and well in these three Sahel states. In ECOWAS Secretariat here, if you get into that building in Abuja here, you're likely to find citizens of Mali, citizens of Burkina Faso, and citizens of Niger that are staffers of that establishment as well. And what you now find is that those guys are going to be out of job. They are going to be able to live here. Not only that they are going to be out of job, they will not even be able to visit any of the West African states like they will usually do. They will now need to get a new passport. They will now have to apply for visas. There has to now be restrictions as to what they are bringing in, what they are taking out. So there are far-reaching implications on some of these issues. And most importantly, again, is that when you look at the security, because the security concerns have also come to the fore. A couple of weeks ago, Niger gave a notice that they are moving from the multinational joint task force. They are moving away from it. And this MNTJ has always
MNJTF.
TF has always been a platform for some of these countries that are, within the Lake Chad region to jointly provide funding and military to be able to secure the region. There's a lot of insurgents activity from Boko Haram, from ISWAP, around the Lake Chad, region. And it's been about Nigeria, Niger, Cameroon, Chad, trying to pull forces together to be able to ensure that there is security in this region. Niger has given notice of pulling out from that, maybe because they now want to concentrate on the joint security and of the 5,000 military force that has now been provided for by the Sahel states, which is another. But now we have a challenge, actually. Now we have a challenge because ECOWAS themselves have also been trying to pull together a joint, security force, which obviously means that both the manpower, the funding, the requirements is now challenged as a result of these decisions that has been taken by the Sahel states. So that in itself has also provided us something to worry about. And
yeah, but Ambassador,
ECOWAS, yes.
Yeah,